Minister and leader of His Majesty's Opposition Grenada and our featured speaker. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Senate, Dr. Francis Severin, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal, the UWI Global Campus, Professor Winston Moore, Deputy Principal, the UWI Cave Hill Campus, Mrs. June Emanuel, wife of the late Patrick Emanuel, members of the Emanuel family and friends, members of the family and friends of Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, Dr. Donnelly Carrington, Deputy Dean, Undergraduate Affairs, Recruitment and Quality Assurance and Accreditation, Faculty of Social Sciences, the UWI Cave Hill Campus, members of the university community, members of the Parliamentary Reform Commission, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening once again. I am Dr. Christina Hines. I am the head of Department of Government Sociology, Social Work, and Psychology. I will also be your MC for this evening's lecture. My protocol list says I am the Master of Ceremonies. I did not know a woman could be a master, but that is what I am for this evening. It is my pleasure to be involved in having this department, the Department of Government Sociology, Social Work, and Psychology, host this 18th iteration of the Patrick A.M. Emanuel Memorial Lecture, entitled Reflections on the Role of Prime Ministerial Power and Authority in Regional and International Spaces. It continues to be the department's privilege to honor Dr. Emanuel's legacy. We know you will find this evening's lecture by the formidable Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell a treat. At this stage, I would like to invite Dr. Donnelly Carrington, Deputy Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, to bring welcome remarks from the Faculty of Social Sciences. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Carrington.
Thank you. Senator Dr. Christina Hines, Head and Senior Lecturer, Department of Government Sociology, Social Work and Psychology, UWI Cave Hill Campus. The Honorable Ryan Strachan, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister and leader of His Majesty's Opposition Grenada, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Senate, Dr. Francis Severin, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal, the UWI Global Campus, Professor Winston Moore, Deputy Principal, the UWI Cave Hill Campus, Mrs. June Emanuel, widow of the late Dr. Patrick Emanuel, members of the Emanuel family and friends, family and friends, of the Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, members of the university community, members of the Parliamentary Reform Commission, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of Professor Troy Lord, Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, it's my pleasure to bring you greetings on this 18th Patrick A.M. Emanuel Memorial Lecture. Thank you all for being here this evening. I acknowledge again the presence of Mrs. June Emanuel, widow of the late Patrick Emanuel, and other members of the Emanuel family who are here with us, and those who are viewing online. To our special guests, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister of Grenada, I say, welcome home. You are a proud product of the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, and we extend a warm welcome to you. The Patrick Emanuel Memorial Lecture is one of the flagship events of the annual calendar of the Department of Government Sociology, Social Work and Psychology, and we thank Senator Dr. Christina Hines and her team comprising Dr. Pearson Brooms and Dr. Sandra Ocean Springer and other members of the team to keep Pat's legacy alive. I must thank Professor Cynthia Barrett-Giles for her vision to initiate this memorial lecture almost about 2 decades ago. I also wish to thank former heads of department, Dr. Tennyson Joseph and Professor Wendy Grenade, both of whom are no longer at the UWI, for their unswerving commitment to ensuring the success of the lecture series over the years. Patrick Emanuel was a quintessential social scientist. He served as the Dean of the Faculty and contributed immensely to the discipline of political science as well as to the advancement of the Department of Government and to the Faculty of Social Sciences as a whole. In the tradition of the UWI, we continue to honor the work and memory of Dr. Patrick Emanuel to keep alive his ideas and introduce younger generations to his work. Some of you may recall that in 2015, at the 10th Memorial Lecture, the then principal of the Cave Hill campus, Grenadian-born Professor V. Ewadine Barreto, provided an insightful critique of the unfinished business, Patrick Emanuel and the Caribbean political thought, and gave a charge to keep Pat's legacy alive. Patrick Emanuel was a Grenadian and a Caribbean man. His commitment to Grenada and the OECS was evident in his scholarship, teaching, and public life. On behalf of Professor Lord, I am pleased to welcome the Dr. Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, a veteran Grenadian politician, to present the 18th Patrick A.M. Emanuel Memorial Lecture on the theme Reflections on the Role of Prime Ministerial Power and the Authority in Regional and International Spaces. We know Pat would love this topic. After all, for most of his professional life, he labored in the vineyard, exploring the complexity of party politics, governance, constitutionalism, regionalism, and other aspects of the Caribbean political life. Both Dr. Mitchell and the late Dr. Patrick Emanuel share a lot in common. They both belong to a generation of Grenadian and Caribbean men who were born in the colonial period, but who grew up with the nationalist movement and developed a deep passion for Grenada and the Caribbean. Both men would go on to achieve PhDs at a time when only a few were able to do so. They both became academics, Dr. Mitchell at Howard University and Dr. Emanuel here at the UWI. Both served the government of Grenada in different capacities. Dr. Emanuel as a foreign policy advisor and ambassador, and Dr. Mitchell as a long-standing parliamentarian since 1984 and as Prime Minister from 1995 to 2008, and then again from 2013 to 2022. Hailing from Belmont and Happy Hill, one of the Caribbean political scientists par excellence, the other a quintessential Caribbean politician. On a lighter side, both men love mass, steel pan, and cricket, the essence of Caribbean life. Dr. Mitchell, thank you again for accepting our invitation. You join a list of illustrious scholars, policymakers, and activists who have explored various dimensions of Caribbean politics and societies. The lectures have always provoked our minds and inspired us to think about solutions for our Caribbean condition. The Cave Hill family welcomes you home again, and we look forward to an intellectually stimulating evening. Welcome again to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Carrington. We move next to remarks from Mrs. Viola Blackwood. Her remarks will be delivered online. Before we go there, I think it's very important to let everyone know that not only will you be enjoying a wonderful lecture this evening, brought to you from the Department of Government, Sociology, Social Work, and Psychology in the Faculty of Social Sciences. You are part of our 60th anniversary celebrations at Cave Hill. Every event this year is part of the celebrations, so welcome to celebrating with us. And it is also double anniversary, the 75th anniversary of the UWI. So very special welcome to you all in participating in our celebrations. And we move next to some online, we're using the technology tonight, remarks from Mrs. Viola Blackwood, niece of the late Dr. Patrick Emanuel.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? I will assume so. Good evening and all protocols observed. It is indeed an honor to participate in the proceedings this evening and bring remarks on behalf of the family on the 18th occasion of the Patrick A.M. Emanuel Memorial Lecture. Sorry, I call him Uncle Pat, so this is very awkward for me. The entire family would like to express our profound gratitude to the Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Troy Lord, Deputy Dean, Dr. Donnelly Carrington, Head of the Department of Government, Sociology, Social Work, and Psychology, Senator Dr. Christina Hines and her team for organizing this annual event, which recognizes the work of my dear Uncle Pat. We also would like to acknowledge the Grenadian community, friends of the family, academics, and the general public for their continued support and interest. This evening, we look forward to Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell's lecture on the reflections on the role of prime ministerial power and authority in the regional and international spaces. Dr. Mitchell and Uncle Pat were very good friends, and therefore I am sure that the former Prime Minister greatly appreciates the opportunity to make his contribution to the lecture. Thank you very much, Dr. Mitchell, for accepting the invitation. April of this year marked 27 years since Uncle Pat's passing. He was the older brother of my mother, Mrs. Elizabeth Princess Kreft. While preparing my remarks, we reflected on his life and the many fond memories. I also reached out to another dear friend of Uncle Pat, George Snobies Griffith, who offered a few words of admiration. Uncle Snobies noted, Pat was a man of legendary character with a personality that attracted many people all over the world and the Caribbean. If you were in Grenada and walking the streets of St. George's with Pat, you would know and hear that he exuded a bright and positive aura everywhere he went. If you were by the Carenage near the Panyard, you would see the young schoolboys rush up in glee and say, "Oh, Mr. Pat, you're back. How you doing?" Or similarly, if you were at St. John Street on Grenville Street in the town of St. George's, you would see the same reactions from the older folks. But they would say, "Hey, Fonz, you back in town? How are you doing?" Or "How is university going?" Uncle Pat would respond and never found it hard to take some time to chat with them as if he had known them his whole life. He was a man who would lend an ear if you needed and loved interacting with his friends. But he never let that deter. His focus from his studies. I recall a time, this is Uncle Snobies, not me, a time that they were having lunch at the Nutmeg, and I responded to him that he had a paper to write and he needed to do some research, in which he quickly replied, "Snobies, I don't need to go to the library because I sit here with you right now, and I am going through in my mind exactly what I need to write." Uncle Pat was a brilliant academic and a trusted friend, and he made Grenada proud. Uncle Pat loved a good line with family and friends. He loved his steel pan and juve. He loved helping people in need. He loved debating regional matters and politics with his peers and his students. But he also, most of all, he loved his homeland, the Spice Isle, and the Caribbean region. He was a kind and humble soul, and he is sorely missed. Let us continue to celebrate him. And once again, on behalf of the Emmanuel Blackwood Kreft family, we thank you. From those of us listening from the U.S., I bid you happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mrs. Viola Blackwood. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And as we had these remarks on behalf of the family coming to us online, we also have an online audience that we would like to acknowledge. That audience will not just be listening, but they will be able to participate and send any questions or comments that they might have. Next, we move to our entertainment. And I want to let you know that we are stepping away from what we have done over the last few years. Usually we would have someone perform steel pan. However, the Grenada Students Association have asked to contribute a song to today's proceedings. I hope that we have both of our artists here because we had a little bit of a hiccup. It looks like we do. So I'm very happy that the hiccups have been resolved. You drink some water. And we can welcome Mr. Tafawa Pierre and Miss Tarisha Gilbert to offer us a song. Sweet Grenada, this is home. Let us give another round of applause to our student performers. We have a lot of talent on this campus. I hope that they are doing just as well in their studies. I know they are. We thank them so much for that contribution. And we are getting there, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have to introduce our speaker, my colleague, Dr. Sandra Ocheng Springer. She is a lecturer in the Department of Government, Sociology, Social Work, and Psychology, a lecturer in political science. Welcome, Dr. Ocheng Springer.
Senator Dr. Christina Hines, Head and Senior Lecturer, Department of Government, Sociology, and Social Work, the UWI Cave Hill Campus. Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister and leader of His Majesty's Opposition, Grenada, and our featured speaker, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Senate, Dr. Francis Saverin, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal, the UWI Global Campus, Professor Winston Moore, Deputy Principal, the UWI Cave Hill Campus, Mrs. June Emmanuel, wife of the late Dr. Patrick Emmanuel, members of the Emmanuel family and friends, members of the family and friends of Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, Dr. Donley Carrington, Deputy Dean, Undergraduate Affairs, Recruitment and Quality Assurance and Accreditation, Faculty of Social Sciences, Cave Hill, the UWI, members of the university community, members of the Parliamentary Reform Commission, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight, I have the pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, And the snippet at the back of your program should give you a little bit of insight into the man that is Dr. Mitchell, someone whose public service we have all had the benefit of observing over time. Dr. Mitchell is a mathematician and statistician. He gained a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics and chemistry in 1971 from the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, followed by a master's degree from Howard University in 1975 and a doctorate in mathematics and statistics from American University in 1979. I read somewhere that he was the only head of state with a PhD in statistics. Dr. Mitchell is a former Prime Minister and current opposition leader of Grenada. He successfully led the new National Party to victory in general elections on 5 different occasions, including an unprecedented sweep of the polls on 3 occasions. You seem to have set a precedent. He is one of the longest serving prime ministers in the Caribbean and a political stalwart in Grenada. Last December, Dr. Mitchell celebrated his 38th anniversary as elected parliamentarian. Dr. Mitchell has also served in different capacities at the regional level as CARICOM chair, as chair of the Board of Governors of the Caribbean Development Bank, as chairman of the Ministerial Council of the Association of Caribbean States, as chairman of the OECS, as chairman of the RSS, as lead head of government with responsibility for science and technology in CARICOM's quasi-cabinet, just to name a few. At the international level, he has represented Grenada at various UN meetings, at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meetings, at AOSIS, and as chairman of the Small States Forum at the World Bank, among other fora. From speaking with Dr. Mitchell, I gathered that he would have come from very humble beginnings. From a child, he was always concerned about unfairness in society and how little input the ordinary person had in the governance of their country. He wanted to make a difference by speaking out against injustices. As a young man, he had a great platform to do so in the classroom. He was a secondary school teacher at Presentation Brothers College, his alma mater, and at the tertiary level, he taught at Howard University. This is where he felt he could positively influence the lives and thinking of many young people. His transition into politics was a natural one. Aside from being a long-serving parliamentarian, Dr. Mitchell is an avid cricket fan who has also played the game. In fact, he was a member of the Grenada cricket team in the 1960s and 70s, and also served as captain of the team. In a conversation with him yesterday, he spoke fondly of his time in Barbados as a student at Cave Hill campus, where he captained the team for some time. From his time in Barbados, I think Dr. Mitchell would have developed certain deep connections to Barbados that I will not delve into. Dr. Mitchell, I know that similar to so many of us in this room, you were upset when the West Indies team failed to qualify for the World Cup this year. You have been very vocal about West Indies cricket, and as the outgoing chairman, CARICOM chairman in 2018, you raised the issue of West Indies cricket as, and I quote, a burning issue for which our community must take due responsibility, end of quote. I could say so much more about West Indies cricket, but that would require a whole lecture in and of itself, but let's just say there is never a dull moment. I also learned that Dr. Mitchell is an early riser. He's in office by 6 a.m. every morning. He's also a boss at Domino's, and he would have shared many a six love, both home and abroad. Dr. Mitchell has had a remarkable journey of leadership and service. A keen supporter of regional integration, he has made a call for the development of more inclusive mechanisms between integration arrangements and demands of the people, as well as other issues critical to development of the community. I have heard Dr. Mitchell's speeches at the United Nations and other international fora on many occasions, advocating on behalf of small island developing states, calling for collaboration, concessional funding, shared prosperity, and concerted support, while offering Grenada as a beacon of lessons learned in relation to sustainable development, and also highlighting Grenada's efforts as it navigates turbulent waters. If we consider this in the context of our current realities, we're living in difficult times, and Caribbean people have had to deal with crises after crisis after crisis. So the presentation and the topic this evening is very apt. There are overwhelming socioeconomic issues resulting from financial crises, COVID-19, environmental issues, and other events that are happening in other parts of the world that have serious implications for us. This landscape calls for difficult conversations, decisions, and visionary leadership as we go through perennial recovery. I have a quote by George Lamming that I find to be very useful in relation to elective politics in the region. And I know a little bit about elective politics, and I think Dr. Mitchell will relate. And I quote, "The politician is overwhelmed by concrete tasks to be performed, decisions to be taken urgently, often without any pause for reflection. He is haunted by the failure to deliver. His working hours are spent in a permanent state of emergency. The shadow of parliamentary opposition, where it exists, blurs his sense of priority. He lives with intrigues and the constant threat of betrayal within his own ranks. It is a very feverish atmosphere, hardly conducive to that state of reflective self-consciousness from which a commanding vision of a new society could be born," end of quote. These are the realities of elective politics, according to George Lamming. But a vision is still required. We have no choice. Difficult decisions have to be made as we engage in a changing global environment. And this evening, Dr. Mitchell, we want to tap into your vast knowledge and experience, and we want to ask you to reflect on this topic as one who has served in the highest position in Grenada and the Caribbean. This is also in context of the Caribbean region, where we know prime ministers have tremendous powers. Can this leadership and authority translate in regional and international spaces? As we gather here to celebrate Dr. Patrick Emmanuel, and as we think about his vast scholarship and the fact that he would have belabored on the Caribbean condition, whether it was in terms of the quality of democracy and governance, the efficacy of electoral systems, Caribbean integration, as well as socioeconomic issues confronting the region, we are aware that these are some of the very same issues that Dr. Mitchell tried to address in his political career. I look forward to a vibrant, thought-provoking presentation. I therefore call on you, the audience, to join me in welcoming Dr. Keith Mitchell to the podium as he presents on the topic reflections on the role of prime ministerial power and authority in regional and international spaces.
Let me say a special good evening to all my special friends who are here this evening. And firstly, let me recognize the Honorable Senator Christine Hines. And of course, I ask you and beg you to allow me to stand on the protocols that she has already presented, because if I start to talk about who I know very well here tonight, we might take half of the time that I have. So friends, let me begin. Of course, it is certainly a special honor to have been invited here this evening at my alma mater. And as I was driving to this place, when the taxi man said, "We reach," I said, "No, this is not Cave Hill." I did not recognize the place. And then I stood outside there and they told me that there's a session going on for independence, and that's a field there, so I thought it was my old cricket field. They said, "No, it's on the other side of the campus." But I am happy that you've invited me here. At the time, of course, recognizing this as the 18th lecture, a memorial lecture of our distinguished friend and a distinguished Grenadian, Patrick. And therefore, I would reflect this evening on the topic provided, the role of Prime Ministerial power and authority in regional and international spaces. Colleagues, before I begin, let me just say this about Pat. That's how I used to call him. When I entered the Presentation College in early 60s, Pat was already in Form 5 and was known as one of the star students at the Presentation College. And we had an excellent relationship because from that day, the early period, I was involved in cricket representing the school's cricket team. And I see my captain here today, former ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Barbados, Roland Bullen, who's here with us today. And friends, you know, what I specifically always remember Pat for is, you know, he established this consultant organization called Cadres. You know that? Pat was never wrong. And all the results of his survey that was done, you could put your life on it. And I did put my life on it. And I could say to you, had it not been for Pat's this poll that was done in the late 1994, just before the general elections in 1995, I probably would not be standing here with you as a former prime minister. That's a fact. Because when the results of that poll came out, he did call me and invite me to have a good look at it and study it carefully. And out of the 15 seats in the parliament of the country then, we are ahead in only 4 out of 15. And the election, as you recall, was in June 2022. June 1995, yes. So we had to decide which other 4, at least 4, we have to go at. And I sought Pat's advice and got some advice. And this is exactly what happened. We went 5 areas where we put the little resources that we had into 5, and we ended up with 4. So we won the general elections, big surprise victory to most of the public service in Grenada at the time, 8-7. So Pat would always be remembered for having helped me to win that general elections in 1995. So I had to speak to that here before I begin. Friends, this 18th edition of the Memorial Lecture Series is certainly occurring at a time of crisis on so many critical points. Geopolitical economic, social, environmental, just to name a few. Indeed, in our Caribbean region, we continue to confront ever-increasing challenges. On the macroeconomic front, from climate change and climate risk to poverty and food insecurity, and a pandemic of crime and violence facilitated by the trade in illegal weapons. We also are witnessing widening geopolitical faith lines, which must be carefully managed to avoid the emergence of tensions and the adoption of divisive, entrenched polar positions among small states. Studies of small states tend to focus on the nature of their vulnerabilities, without considering that these countries have managed external pressures in different ways. Globalization, for instance, brings opportunities as well as risks. And it is still the case that a more integrated global economy may enable smaller states to adapt quickly to changing conditions and to pursue strategic development policies more rapidly so. In all this, friends, there can be no denying that CARICOM, as a part of the global South, confronts increasingly critical decisions with fewer choices, with very fewer choices, my friends, about our development options, and relatedly so, our developmental paths. But it's also the case that our region choices have never been easy, nor has the global environment ever willingly created a space for small states, including CARICOM. Still, over the past 2 decades, the global environment has become even increasingly harsher, and our global partners less sympathetic to the circumstances and needs of the developing South, which of course includes CARICOM. My perspectives, therefore, on the concept of authority and power as Prime Minister were first shaped by my early experiences in my life. My relationships with a very large family, my active involvement in community activities at a time when social capital was a major driver in building and maintaining community infrastructure, and my participation in the sport that I love, cricket. They all played an important part in my understanding of people's participation in decision-making, leadership, and the fundamental difference between power and authority. For indeed, as I think we all recognize, they are not the same. For me, my own view, Prime Ministerial power is the ability to exercise control and influence over the executive branch of government, including the cabinet and the bureaucracy. This involves, for instance, the ability to make decisions, set the government agenda, and implement policies. So the power of a prime minister leverages and it emanates from sources such as constitutional provisions, parliamentary support, party leadership, and public perception. Public perception is an absolute key factor there. And sometimes we politicians lose that most important ingredient. On the other hand, my friends, prime ministerial authority refers to, in my view, the legitimacy and recognition of the prime minister's position within the political system. I came to appreciate quite early including through my sojourn as an MP and a minister in the administration of the former Prime Minister of Grenada, Hubert Blaise, between 1984 and 1989. That while a Prime Minister's power and authority are not the same, that Prime Ministerial authority is crucial to the successful exercise of the powers of the Prime Minister. That's my view. Indeed, it is such an authority that provides the necessary legitimacy and backing to effectively govern. And that's the key, because it's about governing. So, both the power and the authority of a Prime Minister are necessary and sufficient conditions to effectively govern, including establishing and implementing policy, whether at home, regionally, or on the international scene. In several countries, including in my own Grenada, there have been instances where the Prime Minister has had considerable power, but yet still lack the necessary authority within the system to effectively govern. I will return to one such case in point by way of an example later in my presentation that I was really able to watch and see play out practically. My friends, small states have always been more vulnerable in the global affairs. Therefore, the influence which small states have wielded has by and large been based on their ability to work through formal and informal coalitions. At the global level, the successes which small states have secured have emerged through the route of coalition grouping. These coalition groups were usually formed based on common ideologies, particularly in the past, such as the post-colonial independence, Pan-Africanism, and various forms of ideological models. For example, social democracy, socialism, capitalism, communism, whatever you want to call it. The post-independence movements evidenced most member states acceding to the Bretton Woods institutions in the 1960s and the 70s. Accession to the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT, and ultimately accession by CARICOM states to the World Trade Organization, WTO. An important feature of the free market doctrine was also a manifestation of the coalition building with other WTO members. Friends, the efficacy of the Prime Minister's power and authority in the context of the global political and economic affairs, acting outside a coalition grouping is quite limited. The coalition arithmetic is that where interests are aligned and unified, collective actions works very well. The achievements of smaller states in the global arena reflect this. Where interests diverge, the role of the prime ministerial power in the coalition context shifts to forging a consensus with other states. Over the past 2 decades, more so over the past decades, we have witnessed the emergence of an increasingly complex geopolitical, economic, and financial agendas. There has been a shift away from the strictly politically grounded ideological positions, and I think we all seen this happen. I watch some of my friends who are calling themselves left and center. I see the difference today is quite stark. Discontent with the distribution and gains from globalization and the rise of the new world global powers and new coalition blocs have caused many small states to realign their interests. As new approaches to and realignments on global interests have occurred, energy security, control of global financial architecture, global security, these have emerged. Small states have had to adopt more sophisticated and nuanced approaches to global regional integration. The approaches by prime ministers in contributing to the consensus within the coalition groupings have also become more complex, more information intensive, often requiring far broader consideration of and linkages to cost-cutting issues. By far, friends, the most important ingredient in coalition building is the maintenance of trust and cohesion among the coalition members, even where differences exist. Across the various electoral cycles, I have always applauded the ability of colleague heads of government in the region to maintain cohesion among CARICOM member states. And this has been an invaluable asset that has held the region together, even on potentially very divisive issues. This attribute, friends, by CARICOM heads, of managing diverse views without affecting the cohesion of the coalition will be particularly important in the coming years, given the rapid changes to the international system occurring in the shift from biopolarity to multipolarity. CARICOM solidarity must remain grounded in the shared norms and values, such as the rule of law, the Caribbean as a zone of peace, based on respect for the principles and rules of international law, including the international instruments to which small states are party to, and the principles and purposes of the United Nations Charter. The authority of a prime minister that a prime minister possesses as a head of the executive is not unbridled. I found that it is extremely important for elected officials and for the prime minister to ensure that his cabinet colleagues and the people remain with him in the exercise of executive power. It is sometimes very easy in the possession of power to forget that basic fundamental principle. The power can easily go to our heads, and we tend to see ourselves as semi-gods sometimes and forget there are others there sitting, watching, and examining what we do. So showing respect for every single one member of the team, that respect, because I've seen it the other way, and I've seen the damages that are done to some of us in our region. So I always believe, see this word called humility? If you lose that, you're gone. It is easy to go off in a certain direction, believing you're a semi-god, and lose that basic concept of the human touch, and everybody around you can see it except you. The period following the passage of Hurricanes Ivan and Emily, 2004 to 2005, friends, was without doubt the most challenging period of my stewardship as Prime Minister. None of you in here would ever want to be in that position. I thought the morning after Ivan and looked at the country and couldn't believe everything was on the ground. And you could imagine the stress, the impact on me personally. And at the same time, you had the responsibility to lift people up while you yourself needed a lot of lifting. It was extremely difficult. I can't forget. I give you a little joke. I was coming out from my home after Ivan. I had a chance to survey, and I was at a road junction close to my house, and I saw about 40 to 50 young men coming up the street. And when they reached to me, I wondered, well, where these young guys coming from? They said to me, Prime Minister, we going home, eh? When you're ready, come for us. We come out from the Richmond Hill prison. Because they were guys, they were committed murder. But they were very nice to me. They tell me, when they're ready for me, for them, come and get them. Whether they're going to Guave, to Concord, to Sauterres, to Grenville, come and get them. And in fact, they stayed home and waited for us to come to pick them up. So there's some good stories, but I will never be able to forget this. I went home and I had a good drink. I recall back then, friends, the hurricane tracking focus had placed Barbados at risk, if you remember. Then without much warning, the hurricane took an unconventional path. And within 24 hours, Grenada had to prepare for the mother of all hurricanes. After sustaining winds of 120 miles per hour, with gusts of over 145 miles per hour, 49 lives were lost. Over 90% of the country's housing stock was destroyed or damaged, and our country had suffered a loss of 200% of GDP. To make matters worse, after not suffering direct impact of hurricane for 49 years, we did not see one. Grenada was again hit by Emily in 2015. And the story was, Ivan came and his wife Emily came just a few months later to finish the work. So most of the country, south and other places except the north, was hit hard by Ivan, and Emily came and he took the north. So all the nutmegs and so on we thought we had saved from Ivan, Emily took them down. Friends, rebuilding requires a number of major difficult decisions, which were only possible because I had the support at political authority of the cabinet, senior technical team members, the public servants, and the Grenadian people. People got together. It was a feeling that we are all in this thing together. So the only how we can recover is if every man put their hands to the task. At the global level, friends, the international political relationships, including the various alliances with like-minded political parties in the developing countries, the developing South and the Caribbean were also critical to securing the resources and development space for economic reconstruction and building that Grenada had. Friends, I give you this story of peace. I had a very special relationship with George Bush, the second George Bush, the son of the former president, as a member of the International Democratic Union. I was made the vice chairperson responsible for Latin America and the Caribbean. George Bush was the vice chairman for the Americas, and Prime Minister Howard of Australia was chairman of the IDU. So whenever we met at Washington, three of us would meet at the White House. So I was at the White House on several occasions because of the international connection that the Prime Ministerial Authority gave me. And friends, that relationship was crucial because when Ivan struck, all the telephone system broke down. Everything went. So I was sent a special phone through the ambassador of Barbados, sent by the president. And even then I had difficulty when George Bush called to really connect properly with him. So they had to send additional ones for me. And within a week, he arranged for me to come to Washington in a special flight. And within a week, coming back home, Colin Powell, the Secretary of State, landed in Grenada. And he stayed with me for an entire day, not leaving my sight. I suppose he saw that I was clearly a battered person. How he knew it, I don't know. And within 2 weeks, the US announced $50 million cash for Grenada. It's the first in my experience that America was so kind in its cash to the region on a single issue. And in fact, the mobilization of other resources, supplies, and so on. All that was so crucial in what took place. I have more to say, which I am doing in my autobiography, which I'm now writing. But I also want to mention the support of the Caribbean people throughout the entire Caribbean. Would never be able to forget this. Of Venezuela, Barbados, Trinidad, everyone, the OECS, just named Guyana, everybody. It was like a brother in trouble, a sister in trouble, and they were there. And that made you feel more of a Caribbean person because you know that is who we could depend on most in time of trouble. The ability, friends, to marshal the whole society approach with stakeholders, the ability to leverage international relationships, the sacrifices of the Grenadian and Caribbean people, also including our diaspora support, Grenadians and Caribbean friends in North America and Europe. All these friends were key factors in the successful rebuilding of our country. I will never be able to forget in our own country the support of the churches, the religious community, the trade union movement, the business community, the NGO community, and the people as a whole. This was a time that we felt proud of our people. The confidence placed, therefore, in the authority of the administration to forge important compromises and to implement the changes necessary were critical to our successful recovery. The impact of Ivan and Emily on our country's debt was catastrophic. We were forced to default on our international debt with creditors, and we spent an enormous amount of time negotiating debt restructuring with creditors and bondholders. Ironically, friends, it was these lessons learned from 2004 to 2005 period that later led Grenada into the 2015 debt restructuring process. To pioneer an innovative clause called Hurricane Clause in any bonds that we undertake. This is a crucial thing. And it's a reminder that while we look towards our regional friends or international friends, the story is told consistently by our grandparents. Charity begins at home. So at that point, there were no savings at all that we could have said, this is our part, help us with this. There was none. So in the restructuring of our country in 2015, an important aspect of this, that we had to use a portion of our savings and be responsible enough to put aside for what we call the wet days. So that when we started the whole concept of the CBI and Citizenship by Investment Program, we put aside 40% of the revenues from CBI into a special fund. So that in case there is any disaster, hopefully we have none, but you know, these days is not if, but when. Whether it's earthquake, storm surge, hurricane, we have to prepare ourselves. So when you hear my colleague, friend who now took over, and he said they met a lot of money in the Treasury. They said the Treasury was pregnant. I don't know the word pregnancy, so I never had a chance to be pregnant, so I take the word of my Prime Minister. He says that he met a very pregnant Treasury. But the question is how it became pregnant. You always have to know how people become pregnant, right? Essentially, friends, the Hurricane Clause stipulated an immediate temporary debt moratorium should the country be struck by another natural disaster. That was in our structural adjustment program. That move, negotiating the Hurricane Clause, was endorsed by the influential Paris Club of governmental creditors and provided a promise of vital financial relief for small states in times of distress. That Hurricane Clause, friends, is now recognized and supported by the World Bank and the IMF, and also by the international capital markets, and is now well accepted by the international bondholders. That is crucial. Your own Prime Minister, Motley Barbados, recently took this construct after a discussion with me, using the global markets first government bonds with a clause allowing for payments to be suspended in the event of another global pandemic. In other words, she added a pandemic clause together with the hurricane clause. So I'm sure that any other country negotiating with the IMF and others will in fact adopt that basic and fundamental approach. Another important institution that emerged from our Ivan and Emily period was the Agency for Reconstruction and Development, ARD. It was almost like a second government. And that was founded on the platform of social partnership, including labor, civil society, private sector, political parties, and religious organizations. And some members of my own party did not like it because it gave some power, a lot of influence to people who basically oppose us politically. And it could have led to our loss later on. But the point is, NMP may have lost, but Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique gained. Friends, the philosophy of the ARD was based on ensuring transparency and accountability in the management of the recovery efforts. which further bolstered the legitimacy of the reconstruction effort in our country. Grenada's ARD model has since become an important institutional element endorsed by the World Bank and adopted by many small states in their recovery efforts. It is no secret that the global financial crisis of 2007 to 2008 transmitted disproportionately so significant shock waves through the economies of small states. That's a fact. For us in Grenada, the financial crisis compounded the negative effects of an economy that was still in recovery mode after the two disasters. These implications of crisis on our recovering economy, coupled with the adjustment fatigue among the population, as I said before, may have led to the loss of elections in 2008. So although people praise the effort of the recovery, we got regional acclaim, international acclaim, Grenadians say no, because everybody would like to see the house rebuilt overnight. Everybody wants everything, and very little patience, and you understand how things work. But Grenada, as I said, won. When the electorate gets wary, and when they want to try something new, not even political authority could save us. But my friends, the topic of this lecture is very provocative. From another perspective, Grenada's 2008-2013 period, that's the example I talked about a while ago, when my administration lost political office and was in opposition, manifests the stark difference between political authority and political power. During that period, the political power of the Prime Minister and his government was continually undermined by the actions of elements of his own party. There were times during the 2008-2013 period when it would not be unfair to advance that the Prime Minister held political power but did not hold political authority in the same way. And you know, I alluded to that earlier on. To maintain the legitimacy of political office, Prime Ministers must ensure that they carry other members of the Parliament along the path with them. Members of their own political party and the electorate along, particularly during challenging periods or where difficult decisions are necessary. Without bringing groupings together and along, including the people, political power will soon be lost. So it was in Grenada in elections of 2013, when the government then lost power and the new National Party was returned to political office with all 15 seats in the House of Parliament, the lower house. And it was under the promise of better use of political power. That was the theme. An important aspect, friends, of this commitment was the development of an economy based on leveraging science and technology, innovation, and unlocking new sectors in the drivers of economic growth, transformation, and social development. When prime ministers were vested with the authority at home, it provides them with a greater authority, international standing to broker and leverage relationships on the global scene. As chairman of the World Bank Small States Forum in 2017 to 2019, I leveraged the opportunity to present a vision for small states with my other colleagues in the region, which reposition the rationale for special needs and circumstances for small states from a disadvantaged group seeking special concessions to a grouping with immense potential to contribute to the SDGs in areas such as the blue economy, renewable energy, and of course, technology. In preparation for that chairmanship, friends, we recognized that there was an opportunity to refocus Small States Forum agenda towards concrete actions on finance and capacity building in order to better address the triple trap of high fossil fuel prices, high levels of indebtedness, and devastating climate change impacts. Compared to large developing countries, the Caribbean was paying to 200 to 500% more for electricity. That's most countries. There are a few countries differ. And the remote islands of the Pacific, where many small states exist, were paying as much as 100,000% more for small states. Therefore, there still remain some binding constraints on their development. And the issue of energy costs was a major, major problem as far as the advancement in the economic state is concerned. We proposed then that the small states, either, that's the World Bank soft loan window, allocation at times should be increased, was increased by 50% from $50 billion to $75 billion. And it should be front-loaded and fast-tracked for small states. In the end, we succeeded in arriving at a consensus that the funding should be used for strategic and transformational projects, including via public-private partnerships. Private sector development involvement, not just shallow engagement, genuine engagement, but active partnership with the private sector has been a major tenet of our leadership in that period, and particularly so, I used that also quite significantly throughout the period of time of my service as Prime Minister of our country. The commitment to science and technology was also a responsibility which I carried in CARICOM quasi-cabinet, as was already pointed out, as the lead Prime Minister, responsible also for ICT. The work of this subcommittee at the community level, along with actions of the OECS sphere, contributed to the liberalization of telecom sector among the OECS countries. This was also one of the most difficult periods because cable and wireless was not prepared to give up that monopoly, where the cost of a simple telephone call in most cases is $5 and more. They were not prepared to give up this easily. We had to fight. And the collective will and support of the CARICOM heads in general, because the OECS, I was then chairman, and therefore I had to lead that negotiation. Particularly the support of the former Prime Minister of St. Kitts, Denzel Douglas, was critical to having cable and wireless bend. And we had the liberalization of telecommunication, which has been so significant because it is said that there is a great correlation between growth in GDP and telecom communication. That has been proved scientifically. And that engagement with cable and wireless was occurring at a time when other countries such as Jamaica were also moving to liberalization, but we were ahead of the game in that sense. Interestingly, the broad-based social partnership platform, which had served us well on several other fronts, was missing because the participation of the labor movement, to say the least, in the early stage, were not there. Their concern was a lot of the jobs at Cable and Islands would be lost. And therefore, they gave me hell. But we were clear of that vision and the opportunities that the liberalization can give our region and our people, that we stuck to that task. My friends, I recall when the liberalization occurred and you had diversity in the telecommunication providers, a lot more jobs were created. And I was able to call my friends and say, you see how many jobs there? You see this one here? You see this one? Hundreds more jobs. And the economy of our country was also clearly helped enormously. Therefore, that also taught me that there are times when prime ministers must lead from the front. Others may catch up, but there are times when leading from the front is the right and the only right strategic action that we must take. In other words, if one is thinking of getting into politics, as I tell some of my friends, and you don't know how to take licks, don't go there. Don't go there. My friends, when I was teaching at the university, I didn't have a problem. No problem at all. It's easy task. So when I came from teaching at university and I start getting political licks for everything you say or do, I say, what? Boy, Howard look at a better place. It took me some time to come to terms with the yard that I entered. So as lead head of responsibility for ICT, we'll be able to settle the strategic framework for a single CARICOM ICT space. This is significant, you know, friends. You can't believe that Trinidad is just there, Grenada, and you try to make a telephone call and a set of money. Barbados is just there. You live in the great United States, as I lived for years. Big country. You cannot understand how we stuck with this formula for so long. We were able to achieve the single CARICOM space. And therefore, to advance the regional digital development strategy that we had no choice but to do. I'm particularly encouraged by our achievement within the digital strategy that we have now in. We still have a long way to go, but we have started a process. We have successfully negotiated with telecoms to reduce roaming rates across all countries by a massive 97% throughout the region. That's amazing. The task of closing the divide, therefore, and unleashing the potential of the regional development transformation, friends, still remains. We cannot rest. Our community must work assiduously to complete the task of improving the accessibility and the cost of data connectivity for the benefit of all our people. In this regard, an important action must be forging a consensus and an action plan with assigned roles, responsibilities, and time frames among the various stakeholders, telecom operators, users, representative bodies such as the Caribbean Association, the National Caribbean Association of Small States, National Telecommunication Association Organization, CANTO, the Caribbean Telecommunication Union, CTU, the universities, regulators, the CARICOM ICT Working Group, and private sector and labor. It will be extremely difficult to achieve the digital transformation if the key stakeholders I just mentioned continue to pursue aspects of a solution set in silos. We all would lose. Our community, therefore, is also challenged in making the investments required for 5G capabilities and to expand the digital access. Developing the business case requires a new model of commercial cooperation among traditional media distributions, telecommunication networks, and cable operators, and other platforms and services such as Amazon, Prime, Apple Music, Netflix, and all the others. There are valid concerns that the existing revenue model, where infrastructure cost is becoming largely by the telecoms and cable operators, may no longer present a compelling case for the substantial investment required by 5G adoption models. Instructively, the limitations of political power and authority are evident in the work in which I took on as lead head with the CARICOM subcommittee on cricket. Remember I said when you have authority and you have power, that's when things work. Well, I didn't know about that in cricket. My lifelong interest in cricket as a player at several levels led me to take a particular interest in addressing the region's concerns with cricket and the state of the game, including the wrangling between the players and the board. To some extent, and I've been heard to speak on this, it is clear to me that the structure of an operation of the board clearly was archaic, something that comes down through the colonial period, and that not going to work in the 21st century and beyond. And I've seen it firsthand because in bringing players on the board to Grenada as Prime Minister and lead head of cricket, I heard language used that I won't repeat here by board officials that you believe you were still living in the colonial period. And I had to stop one and say, my friend, this is not the 1920s and the 1910s and so on. Get your act together. Many heads of government held the view that the cultural and historical significance of cricket to the Caribbean societies demanded a rethink and a reorganization of the game's governance structure, while simultaneously respecting the rules and independence of the governing board, as mandated by the ICC. We have to accept this. The reticence of the West Indies Cricket Board at the time I'm talking about, because I've seen some movement, generated unfounded concerns over the possible encroachment of politicians into the business of the board. Politicians have no right to interfere with cricket. The noise around this issue amplified to such level that our attempt at improving the governance of the game itself added further the distraction away from the critical task of reform of the game. In other words, we probably were not helping, just creating more problems. Since I wished to do nothing that would anyway harm or detract from the critical task of making West Indies cricket better, I made a very painful decision to walk away from leading the subcommittee on cricket, because I felt what was most important is the gains of reforming the structure, and anything that interfered, in fact, our involvement, I did not want to be part of that. I am, however, on record with a clear position of never giving up on West Indies cricket. I would never be able to do this. But I still hold the view that rebuilding of West Indies cricket greatness will not be achieved without the far-reaching reform to the present structure of the WICB. Ironically, our West Indies team has now failed to make it to the World Cup for the first time. Friends, that was not easy to take. It was not. I would simply state that the need of reform for West Indies cricket is more urgent. And I think more of us need to speak out on this. As I said, I believe there are more a welcoming air at the board level today than the past. But there still need to be more voices. With cricket, the Prime Minister's role was largely advisory, well-intentioned, but advisory all the same. In such circumstances where other entities maintain authority at board or other levels, and where the agendas diverge, the efficacy of the Prime Minister's involvement will tend to be limited. With the requisite authority, which must be readily conceded when Prime Ministers do not have the political power, the requisite legitimacy to bring about far-reaching reforms will tend to fail. Friends, a story I've always given about how we feel about our cricket. I convened a meeting with some heads and some key members, past stars of West Indies cricket, some of the top guys. Viv Richards and Gary and others, Grenada. Prime Minister Christie of the Bahamas was there. And you all know the Bahamas is not considered a cricketing country, the region. But Christie gave a story which I think touched all of the members who were there. He said when he was studying in London, did law in London. He said when the West Indies team were playing, and the guys put some lashes on them Englishman. He used to walk into a classroom and he like a hefe. He was so proud. Nobody would ask him, if they ever ask him where he's from, he say, Caribbean. No, in Bahamas, but Caribbean. That was an important instructive point. He was talking about what it means, the feeling it meant for Caribbean people. What cricket gave was so important. I remember going to South Africa at one time. The first question somebody asked me, do you know Gary Sobers? That's what they know about us, or cricket legends. Therefore, friends, what remains clear to me is that the whole of the Caribbean community construct that cricket represents our people and how we feel about ourselves. The recent pandemic stress tested the limits of Prime Minister's authority, as I attempt to close, and power in virtually all our countries. This was an exceptional period where special legislation, Emergency Powers Act and regulations was required to give the government far-reaching powers that otherwise it was not vested with. Experience guided my actions as Prime Minister, and the administration which I led exercised the authority and power under those acts carefully and with great sensitivity. Our management over COVID period was deemed a success by the population and the regional community at large. But COVID-19 reinforced the relevance of regionalism and CARICOM states actively, collectively working together in achieving the common objectives. The pandemic also highlighted that even with collective actions, the global force of small states when it came to accessing vaccines and critical health supplies was still very limited. The negotiating capital of CARICOM, however, was bolstered when larger coalitions were formed with the African Union through alliances and partnerships with the international development partners and agencies, such as the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO. In conclusion, friends, in my respectful opinion, Prime Ministerial authority and power are nothing without a leader's inspirational motivation, with the innate ability to articulate one's vision while moving others to follow. To quote from the great political intellect, Warren Bennis, and he said, "A vision is effective only to the extent that the leaders can communicate it in such a way that others come to internalize his vision as their own," unquote. Sisters and brothers, this concludes my little piece that I have for you here at my very nice and special alma mater, the Cave Hill campus of UWI. I forget that one.
Good evening again. Thank you once again, Dr. Mitchell. That was quite a talk. I know that sometimes when we ask our students to attend these talks, we tell them they can get a few marks if they can do some things like summarize. And I think they are happy, those of them who are here, that that was not assigned, because you certainly took us on a very generous tour. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Now, this is the time when we can take some questions. I already have some questions that have come in from the online audience. For those of you who would like to ask questions, you can just raise your hand, and we have some people who will be coming around with a microphone so that you can be heard. I would like to begin with one of the online questions, but if anyone has a question, please make yourself known and we will get a microphone to you. So I have quite a long question here to begin with. It's a statement and a question. This is from the online audience. When we think of matters at the regional and international level, the issues tend to include climate adaptation, CARICOM and CSME, and issues of human rights. Yet, when it comes to implementation, concerns of sovereignty become paramount, and this is where the powers of the PM really come into play as the chair of cabinet. Yet, we have the implementation deficit, particularly at the national level. Those looking from the outside in have attributed this deficit to the lack of political will. Is this the case? And what is the general public missing as it relates to the implementation deficit regarding national implementation? So, is political will lacking, and what else might be lacking?
Well, I think I could understand the concerns with the question raised, because having been there at the CARICOM heads level for a long time, I understand this question has come up several times. I think the leadership of the CARICOM leaders is critical at this stage, because we have to become clearer and clearer that while we have our local issues, and that while we have to be concerned of the dynamics of the political equation in our countries, that the bigger picture of CARICOM and its image is also crucial. And in the final analysis, when CARICOM gains effectively, we all will gain. But unfortunately, the cycle of the 5-year cycle, when it comes around, a lot of times we tend to think of getting back into political office. And that is where I believe a lot of the emphasis fails. So I think it requires more guts. As I said before, when you're in leadership, we have to accept the fact, sometimes I believe if we have to face the possibility of political loss, and the region gains, in the end, I believe we gain. So I think we just have to take the tough decisions and do your best to communicate to our people. The social media platform gave us enormous platforms in which to get messages over. And of course, having the strong public relation program and institution would be crucial, because you have to bring your population along. I think these are going to be crucial things. And I think if we work together as a unit, I think in the end we will protect each other individually by collective actions. Because then we can point to, that is what the others are doing. What do you expect me to do differently? So I think the political will and the strength of the Prime Minister is crucial in that context.
Thank you. Do we have other questions? We have one question from the audience. 2 questions, I see.
Good night. My name is Grace Niles. I'm a first-year law student and a Grenadian, if you can't tell by the accent. I have a few questions. I don't know if I will be permitted to ask all. Firstly, seeing that I am a law student, my first question is legally based. Scanning through Grenada's constitution, I recognize that the office of the Prime Minister holds a lot of power. And in the wrong hands, power can be dangerous, obviously. So, based on your experience as a former Prime Minister, how did you delegate that power without abusing it? And why do you think there has not been constitutional reform to rectify this issue, if it is seen as an issue? That is my...
Let me take the answer first.
Okay.
You're right. The Constitution we have has given the Prime Ministers a lot of power. But with that power, if you recall how I explained my understanding of power, and I said, the people, thinking of the people and their response to what you're doing is crucial. So you can have power and behave in a manner that sends the wrong message. And in the end, it's a sure way to lose that power that you have. So while I remained in political office for many years, was 23 years as Prime Minister, I always was guided by one thing: humility. And I give you a story, friends, that helped me a lot. When I just got into government in 1995, I had serious problems with the public service because they did not expect my government to be elected. And I had real problems. So I did what some cricketers do when they can't pick the googly or the leg break, and a whoop. I had the institution sent about 6 or 7 public servants on leave, whom I thought had contributed to my problems. But friends, when you demonstrate your own sense of humility, even when you do things, a certain person in the religious community called me and said, I want to talk to you. And he said to me, you were wrong with 3 of those persons. They were not involved. I did follow up. I checked and realized that he was correct. I called the 3 individuals in and apologized to them. But I told them I didn't want them to say anything now, because the Thanksgiving ceremony, October 25th is a national Thanksgiving holiday in Grenada. Those who remember the event of October 25th. I said the Thanksgiving service, since I took action against you publicly, I wanted to use that occasion to apologize to 3 of you publicly. And that happened. Those of you could check with any Grenadian. When I did it and apologized to all 3 of them, I got so many calls. They said, we have never seen a prime minister apologize for a mistake publicly in a public forum. And those 3 persons turned out to be 3 of my best public servant support. I cannot tell you they voted for me, because that was insignificant, friends. In my view, and I think sometimes politicians get it wrong. Somebody may not vote for you. If they do your work, you will get a lot of votes. If they vote for you and they don't do your work, you will lose a lot of votes. So the work comes first. My friend?
Okay, my next question is, well, it's based on what you said in your speech or lecture. You made a distinction between political power and political authority. So would you say that the lack of political authority led to the demise of the Morris Bishop regime? And I think you answered my final question, which has to do with what was something that grounded your steps when you won your first election and became prime minister?
So I don't think the lack of authority, maybe a lack of, in my way of defining power, I think it's more the lack of power. He had the authority because he was prime minister, remember. The problem was he had serious problems within his own cabinet, serious problems with certain groups of people. And remember, they put in hundreds of innocent people in jail without charge or trial. It was an enormous mistake of the revolution. And I know many members, friends of mine who were part of the revolution, have in fact admitted that was a fundamental mistake. So I don't think it was authority, but it's more that he lost power within the grouping. And that was a fundamental problem that he faced. You asked the next question, what grounded me? I think my upbringing, I come from a very large family and very poor village. And those who know Brizan, where I was born, there's a stony piece of village, there are no roads. And of course, growing up with a large family, the mother and father in the 2-room house, mother and father in the bedroom, and all 6 of us, and others sleeping on the floor outside. That growing up then and having to struggle was serious lessons. I always tease my friends who went to Presentation College with me, my brother, when we had a talk shop, and that's where they sell little cake and sweet drinks and so on, soft drinks. And every time I passed there, I wanted to buy one, but I had no money. And all you do is stand up and watch other fellas drinking and eating, and you could not eat. So you felt it. So I think that helped me. And I knew that having an opportunity to make a contribution at the level of political office would be crucial. And I had followed the politics of Eric Gary and followed his successes and mistakes, and also followed the revolution, its successes and its mistakes. And I think that helped me with grounding in many areas. I made mine too, and that's life. You're not going to be perfect in anything you do. But if you're humble enough to accept your mistakes and face the consequences and seek alternative solutions in any further decision of that nature, then you are going to make it. That's the key.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. We have another question from our audience here at Cave Hill.
Good night. Dr. Mitchell, I just heard you said that you were Prime Minister for 23 years. Did you say that? Prime Minister for 23 years?
He asked if you said you were Prime Minister for
Is that?
23 years. What happened? I look too young and too
No,
nice.
no. But
Possible.
I would want to congratulate you if they take those licks for all those years, because you said that if you don't want to take licks, you don't get into that kind of politics. But my question, though, concerns the whole question of power, authority, and governance. And I'm concerned that to be a prime minister, you obviously have to have your eyes on election. On election, and election means that you need to have party finance. And the finance has to be raised, it has to come from somewhere. And we all know that this finance comes from the private sector mainly, people involved in distribution, finance, real estate, and banking, but mainly distributors' rates. And when they do that, they expect something in return. They expect government contracts to be given out in some preferential way. So my question then to you, how were you able to survive in this kind of environment and to be fair-handed and keep your eye on what a prime minister is supposed to do to govern for the majority of the people, to uplift the poor and dispossessed in Grenada? How were you able to do it?
This is an important question. Let me say this. I hold a philosophy, firmly so, that not everyone that voted for you in a certain election will vote for you next time. And therefore, your job is to appear, to treat, give all persons an opportunity to contribute. There is a perception sometimes about some of us in the political position, power, to want to do everything for persons that we believe support us or vote for us. And sometimes we're not even sure, because when they go behind that blind, you're not sure. And then we ignore the persons who genuinely thought the other party was better for the governance of the country. Despite your pleadings and the lines that you pushed in the campaign, that you were better. But they genuinely believe, and they were good people. So if you take that position, you have to give them opportunities. So I know, historically, if you check the Grenada situation, you'd realize. I considered Eric Gary probably one of the most popular politicians that Grenada has ever had. Okay, he had the grassroots people, like my parents were solid Garyites, and so on. And I considered that Gary himself was never able to win 15 seats in Grenada. There were a few seats that he could not touch. One of them was Carriacou. My good friend Roland would know this. and a couple others. And when I got into government in 1995, the same seats were voted against me. I could have, in fact, I could tell you this. In the Carriacou constituency, out of 3,000 odd votes, we got only 175 votes. So from the history of Grenada's politics, I would have just ignored Carriacou, period. But I didn't do that. My own philosophy is, anytime you ignore one section of your society, the country suffers. That was my philosophy. So we engaged the Carriacouan people. We engaged them. In 1995, we nearly won that seat. Sorry, 1999. No, 95, yeah, when we won. We nearly won that seat. And in 1999, we won it. And we won it for 3 successive elections afterwards. So that's how we won 15 seats. So seats that we never won before. That no party who had the grassroots support that Gary had, which I inherited, ever won those seats. But we won it. On 3 occasions, we won those seats. So I think treating people properly, engaging people at all levels is fundamental. It's fundamental. And you will find that those people, when they move to you as some of the strongest supporters you can get, because they move on the basis of the treatment that you meted out and the chance that you gave them that they did not expect to have. I only give examples besides the philosophical approach of how you govern and how you communicate with people at different levels in the society. So I think this had a lot to do with the successes that we have had. And every time we lost the election, it had a lot to do with the lack of contact on the ground, the hand-to-hand combat that we lost. And that's why we lost the elections.
Thank you for that response. I have a few online questions. I am also cognizant of the time, so I'm going to give you 2 of the questions at once. There are 2. One of them is a little bit tricky, but I'll give you it all the same. This person asks, do you think prime ministers use unbridled and arbitrary power to eliminate their enemies, but hide behind the legitimacy of authority when difficult decisions are to be made? That's the tough one. The other one asks, what are your views on term limits for a prime minister?
Well, I could not say that politics, I would also always be on the impact you have on people. So clearly sometimes you have to make a tough decision. And of course, you will be guided by the fact that if people perceive that this is a one-man show, you will get hurt and the entire organization get hurt. So even when it might be you're pushing responsible, it's important to be perceived as the team supporting. I would not avoid you telling you this. I think any politician that presents otherwise would be fooling themselves. So I think to some extent they might be true. That might be some truth in this. But I believe overall people will find out one way or the other if the decision that you made turned out wrong, because elements in your own organization will break ranks. I told him so, and he didn't listen. So I'm saying yes, to some extent, your first question. Yes, there is an element of that, but I would not put it as strong as you did.
As the questioner did.
As the questioner did. Well,
I would never assume that such could occur. Unbridled and arbitrary power of a prime minister, of course.
I wouldn't say it's arbitrary. I wouldn't say it. The question of term limits. Friends, it's amazing. We had a constitutional reform some years ago in Grenada. And we proposed a 3-term limit for prime ministers. I was then, I think, about 3 times in government already. So if they had voted for that would have been my last term. The population voted against it. Because it became an issue of party politics. if Keith go in for it, vote against it. Even the question of Carriacou and Peter Martinic being on our passport, which is a popular issue for Carriacouians. The opposition campaign against it, and you have to get 66%. In Britain, you just get 51%, the same Britain that gave us our constitution and insisted that they don't know how we could get it changed to get 66 and 2/3. There's constitutional change come about with just 51%. The people voted against it. So I am of the view, I have no difficulty with that. Because I always tell people, you don't have to be prime minister to make a serious contribution to your country. I maintain that view. Because there are several ways in which you can serve your country, not just at the prime minister levels. And I think that approach will be taken. And I've been speaking to my own colleagues in Grenada, even now, that your job is to be a member of the team and to support the team as best as possible. And if that includes being the prime minister, then so be it. But it should not be guided. Your actions and statements should not be guided by trying to push a personal agenda against that of the coalition agenda of your party.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Oh, we have someone else that wants to ask a question. Can we indulge and take one last question from the audience? A very quick one. So we have, two hands. Okay, we're going to take this one, and unfortunately, it's going to have to be the last.
Hi, good night, and thank you for indulging me. Commendation to the organizers, commendation, Dr. Mitchell. I'm a Grenadian, I'm a Caville alumna. Just to piggyback off of your last statement, I've always wondered what you made of the failure of the constitutional referendum in 2018. You framed it as having devolved into, I guess, partisan politics, but it came immediately after a clean sweep in the general elections. This is just an aside. My main question to you, a bit more topical. Throughout the Caribbean at the moment, there's a great deal of disquiet surrounding the Samoa Agreement and to capture an economic partnership between the EU and the ACP states. There's a good bit of disquiet with some members or some sectors of the public expressing anxiety as to the contents. My question is based on two premises, that economic agreements are inherently vehicles for transmitting values. They are. However you carve it, whether it be sustainable development, whether it be fishing methods, whether it be commitment to the reduction of poverty, etc. They are always vehicles for the transmission of values. Do you think that there can be better mechanisms within the negotiation of these agreements for allowing for public consensus or sentiments to be taken into account rather than consultations with the public ex post facto? That's my main question to you. Thank you.
You made a point earlier on that I want to comment on briefly. When you mentioned that the constitutional motion failed to get support of the people just after we had a clean sweep at the polls. But remember, the clean sweep came with 64% of the votes, not 66 and 2/3. Or even then, it would failed. And remember, the election afterwards, we still got clean sweep again after they rejected the constitutional change. I agree with you. Sometimes I lament the fact that when you're in a political office, you have intentions that you'd want to do broad-based consultation on almost every issue. That is a theoretical approach. But sometimes you're forced not to do the level of consultation that you wish, given the time constraints and the issues involved that you have to take quick actions on. And sometimes the personnel necessary to do the level of consultation may not be available. So sometimes we do not have the level of consultation that we should have. But I agree sometimes we fail ourselves. Could always do more, because when you have more consultation, you get more success in every single policy issue that you're trying to implement. So I think it's a philosophical approach that we must continue to espouse and do whatever we can to ensure that the population is involved as much as possible in any serious decision that we make.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. We are going to have to leave that as the final question. At this stage, I would like to welcome to the stage Dr. Pearson Broom. He is a lecturer in the Department of Government Sociology, Social Work, and Psychology. He will offer thanks. We will remain on the stage.
Senator Dr. Christina Hines, Head and Senior Lecturer, Department of Government Sociology, Social Work and Psychology. Dr. the Honorable Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister, welcome again. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Senate, Dr. Francis Severin, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of the UE Global Campus, Professor Winston Moore, Deputy Principal, the UWI Cave Hill Campus, former Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal, the Most Honorable Eudine Barroto, Mrs. June Emanuel, widow of the late Dr. Patrick Emanuel, and members of the Emanuel family and friends, members of the family and friends of you, Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Donnelly Carrington, Deputy Dean, Undergraduate Affairs, Recruitment, Quality Assurance and Accreditation, Faculty of Social Sciences, the UE Cave Hill Campus, members of the UE Cave Hill Parliamentary Reform Commission, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Pearson Broom, lecturer in political science within the department, and it is indeed an honor to be part of this August event this evening. Regrettably, we've reached the end of the 18th Patrick Emanuel Memorial Lecture, but on behalf of the department, through the executive management of the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, represented here this evening by our Deputy Principal, Professor Winston Moore, we would like to express our sincere thanks to the Emanuel family for giving us the privilege and honor of naming this distinguished lecture series in his memory. For those who knew him well, as Dr. Mitchell attested to at lunch with us yesterday and again this evening, he was known for his formidable, quiet intellect, particularly his incisive capability to understand the electoral dynamics of a society to deliver the winning formula for those in the electoral arena. Dr. Mitchell noted this without reservation and applauded Dr. Emanuel's incomparable ability to do so without bias, a missing ingredient he lamented on in modern psephology, and it is a missing ingredient. Saying thank you, Miss Emanuel, is a reverential way of showing appreciation towards a person. And so to you, as well as Miss Fayola Blackwood, the university continues to commend your family for graciously consenting through you for setting the stage with personal reflections of your beloved uncle, and for us here at the UE to think on the life of a distinguished Grenadian, the late Dr. Patrick A.M. Emanuel. Additionally, we respectfully accept the astute, sharp-witted, and kind regards brought to us by Dr. Donnelly Carrington, Deputy Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, UWI, from the Dean and colleagues of the Faculty of Social Sciences. As always, Every year, a planning committee formalizes the preparations for the realization of this lecture. Usually, Professor Wendy Grenade and Dr. Tennyson Joseph would have been integral in planning this lecture. This year, though, they are no longer with the department nor the university. And it would be remiss of me not to mention the hard work done and commend them both for their stewardship in organizing earlier editions of this lecture. The department takes this opportunity to wish them both well in their new endeavors at their respective university. This year, we have commingled continuity with change. Ms. Teresita Cox, one of our departmental secretaries, but who's really the chief engineer in the engine room, represents that continuity. And both she and Ms. Alexandra Tillett, our research assistant, must be especially commended for their unwavering support in coordinating and fine-tuning all the administrative details. Senator Dr. Christina Hines, Dr. Sandra O'Shea Springer, and I shifted into the new role of planning and coordinating the responsibility for this lecture to be a success, liaising with the Honorable Dr. Mitchell towards ensuring his effortless and safe passage here. I wish to thank my colleagues for enabling a calm and thoughtful approach in overcoming some anxious moments towards seeing the reality of this evening. To Dr. Hines, thank you for ably chairing this meeting, and to Dr. Springer. The introduction was well delivered and presented the guest speaker as just the right person to deliver this evening's lecture. By extension, the department extends its heartfelt gratitude to the heads of UETV and the Errol Barrows Center for Creative Imagination in willingly providing the requisite supporting services. Because of UETV this evening, this event is being streamed throughout the region and beyond, giving an opportunity for Dr. Mitchell's thoughts to be heard and ruminated upon. For sure, we must also not forget the campus lecture series for providing complementary funding for this event to take place. Ladies and gentlemen, I would be failing in my duty if I did not thank the Grenada Students Association, GRENSAT, who were instrumental in providing us with Mr. Tafaya Pierre and Miss Teresa Gilbert to serenade us this evening with their soulful rendition, Norah Jones style, of the imagery of Grenada. This is yet another change made to the program this year. GRENSAT expressed keen anticipation in hearing from Dr. Mitchell this evening. To the UE ushers, the epitome of proper protocol, and the student volunteers who facilitated the question and answer session, your contributions have not gone unnoticed, and the department is grateful for your supporting roles this evening. The department would also like to register its thanks with the Grenadian staff in Grenada for their support and hard work in coordinating so effortlessly with us here to ensure that Dr. Mitchell received all his documentation for this evening. I can attest to that. Now cometh the man of the hour, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, PC, MP, former Prime Minister and leader of His Majesty's opposition, and now elder statesman, having joined the pantheon of Caribbean leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, no duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. From the time we met Dr. Mitchell at the hotel, he regaled us with the recollections of Grenadian and Caribbean events. Through the mirth at lunch yesterday, there were serious examples of the challenges of leadership of a small island developing state. From the vignettes he shared yesterday, we definitely look forward to this evening to hearing him elaborate further on these ideas. I think we can all concur that he did not disappoint us this evening in delivering a powerful, thought-provoking lecture like the expert speaker that he is, interspersed with his at times witty but profound recollections with examples and analogies as he reflected on the central theme presented this evening. Dr. Mitchell, we thank you for agreeing and accepting to deliver this year's lecture. I can say, though, we have a gift from the department, Ms. Alexandra Tillett, to I was attentive in listening to your speech, but I'm still not convinced that prime ministers do not arbitrarily use their power to eliminate opposition and create a culture of fear leading to illiberal democracies. We're going to put you aside as an exception that does not prove the rule. But we have a long history, long, steep history, and an emerging illiberal culture that we must be careful about. But that's an aside. Your ideas were refreshing. Finally, how can I not express my appreciation to you, our guests, who have taken time out of your busy schedules to grace this occasion with your presence. Your presence has added an extra spark to this event and made it even more special as we look forward to your continued support and participation each year in making this event worthwhile. Because of your presence, the family, department, faculty, and the university remains motivated and encouraged to continue to celebrate the intellect of a regional son of the soil. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. And we have refreshments that you can mingle and exchange ideas as we continue the narrative on power and authority within Caribbean society. Both must be discussed as in light of constitutional reform. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, I thank you.
Yes, indeed. And a special good night to each and every one of you. That was a very, very, very intellectual discussion. Yeah, believe me. Yeah, I think I went to Politics 101 tonight, yeah? Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, I see the calls coming through, but we're kind of limited on time tonight, so I can't go to the phone line. It is our final program for the week. And you see why Dr. Mitchell is the boss, eh? Folks, remember this Saturday it's happening in front of the Nutmeg Pool in Guav. Starting at 6:30, the New National Party will be there. The gentleman who was just so warmly received, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, he'll be there. The former parliamentary representative, Mr. Alvin DeBrio, he will be there as well. As I said, we have limited time tonight, so we have to get into different things and so. Yeah, see, all kind of things happen for the day. I know that there was an attempted armed robbery with violence today, and in the heart of town, you know. When they say the heart of town, this thing was in a ventricle. It was here, right in the heart of town today. You had an attempted armed robbery, and we know at this time last year, and I'll say, to those of you that have businesses or have to move amounts of cash around and so on, to be extra careful. Because we know around this time last year, there was a surge in these kind of crimes taking place, armed robbery and that kind of thing. So, and even tonight we're hearing of a shooting that took place in the south of the island. The last info I got was that the individual was alive, but that there was a shooting in the south of the island, that sort of thing taking place. So again, you've got to be on your P's and Q's. We have the best country on earth. Yeah, the best country on earth. We may have the worst government in the universe, but we have the best country on earth. And it is up to each and every one of us, to ensure that we keep it as the best country on earth. With the worst government, we could change the government could change. Yeah? The time will come when the government will change. You and I know it. Yeah? But in the interim, we cannot allow our country to go down that path that we see it heading. We can't allow it. Each of us have to play a part in ensuring that we save Grenada from the direction that it is heading at this point in time. And I'm saying that I can't take the phone calls, but somebody is just persistent. Let me do that. Nice. That maybe that might stop them. Right? Yeah, I cannot take the phone calls because we have less than an hour for the program tonight, so I will be unable to take the phone calls. Whatever it is, it's going to have to wait until Monday. All right? Nice. And folks, yeah, and I just have to make one little shift inside here because of how I was operating tonight. Yeah, I have to make sure that the right machine in the right, yeah, because, you know, I had to do a little hookup thing tonight to be able to get do the program properly, right? Yeah, so let me just shift one item here. Nice, yeah, let me make sure this thing plugging proper and thing. Nice, yeah, so I'm making sure. Nice. And you see where you do it, go and it freeze my video now. Let me just fix that and fix that and then fix that, and I should be okay there again. Nice. Yeah, let's see the video freeze. Nice. We fixed that now. Good. And I think I'm supposed to be able to get everything here now. Good. Let me just close off this. Right. Yeah. Because over the past day, I've been reading, I've been looking at some things. And something is, you know what? Let's take the phone call. Let's take the phone call. This person is persistent. Hello, good night.
Hey, Rastafari.
Yes, it's going to have to be very short because we barely have time. I wasn't taking phone calls at all. But go right ahead because we barely have time. Go ahead.
Hey?
No, I said we were not taking phone calls, but go ahead. Go ahead, yeah? You'll have to make it quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just making it quick, but I thought I just breathe a breath of fresh air listening to my Prime Minister, the genius, the political genius. I mean, that is how a Prime Minister supposed to song. When you listen to a man like that, you get a message, you get hope of where your country could go from here. But, you know, I just say how much I'm... Thank you for bringing over the program, and it's a blessing to me. Thank you.
Of course. And you see how well he was received.
Oh, yes.
How well he was received. And it's not just Grenadians in Barbados. The Barbadian public was there. And I saw within the crowd people from various countries in the region that went there to hear what he had to say and to learn from him. And that's very important.
It was very impressive.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it over.
Okay, my brother. No
Have a
problem.
good night, everybody.
All right, great.
Blessings.
Yeah, I see you all messages in relation to the phone calls, but if I start to take the phone calls, then I can't speak about anything tonight, innit? Yes, so I am sorry. We will not be able to have more of the phone calls tonight, though. But yes, and I've been seeing the comments throughout the presentation. I've been seeing the comments, and so I will give you the opportunity to speak on that. Maybe if I do a few minutes extra, I would let you all call in and speak in relation to it. But in fact, you know what? Let me give you all the opportunity. Since it's fresh, let me give you all the opportunity, since I see many of you saying, open the phone lines, open the phone lines, open the phone lines. Let me leave what I was going to talk about and open the phone lines and give you all the opportunities. Your program. So if you all saying open the phone lines, 440-7377 and 347-329-3101. Folks, remember to like and share, especially a presentation like what was done tonight. You had to like and you had to share. So the phone lines are open. Let me see you all. Yeah, all of you saying open the phone lines. Open the phone lines. Are listening to you all. So the phone lines are open, 440-7377 and 347-329-3101. And you can also call us on WhatsApp, 440-7377. I probably don't call. All you saying open the phone lines. Me and all you going to have a big problem tonight. Eh? Open the phone line, open the phone line. Let me see what. So I've opened the phone lines. Yeah? I've opened the phone lines. I'm giving you all the opportunity to call. And you know, it was interesting, the discussion that took place around the issue of constitutional reform. Yeah? And what happened with the constitutional reform process here in Grenada. And we have a call online. Good night.
It's good listening to from our former Prime Minister on the line. So, let me give you a short one time before I do get you. So,
okay, no problem. Yeah, short and to the point. Nice.
That good man. That man good man. Nobody can be that man, boy.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, indeed. 440-7377 and 347-329-3101 for those of you out there in the Grenadian diaspora. I am pretty sure my good friends Zayla and Zoya and Exalia and all of them, I'm pretty sure all of them are asleep already. Yeah? But yeah, special good night. Grandma will show all in the morning. They will give all the good thing and show all in the morning. Eh? Hello, good night.
Hey, good night, Brother Sheldon.
Yes, sir. And you had to make it short, eh?
I sat down there and I listened.
Hold on. Warning, eh? It had to be short because we have limited time.
Yeah, I sat down and I listened to Dr. Mitchell. And I just started to smile. I see Dr. Mitchell is a man that he speak. He's a man with protocol. When he go to speak, he don't make us shame, but he make us proud as Grenadian. And even in the Caribbean country, the people proud to hear Dr. Mitchell speak. And I will say Dr. Mitchell will always go in the Guinness Book of Record and the book of fame, not the book of shame. Because he could speak, and he could speak, and when he speak, he make us proud and happy. He don't make us shame. Have a blessed night.
All right, great. 440-7377. You all asked for it. I am listening. I've opened the phone lines and giving you all the opportunity to call. Yes, giving you all the opportunity to call. And I'll leave back what I was going on to talk about. Yeah, I opened the phone lines for you all. We've got a call online. Good night.
Hi, it's me.
Hi, good night, Mrs. Hood. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
All right, you go right ahead.
I am so happy that I was able to listen to the presentation this evening because I was a bit busy, but I mean, listening to Dr. Mitchell, it brought back so many memories in terms of all that we have done in this country for development. And what I thought was interesting was he remembers everything, you know, and his what he was saying makes so much sense. I hope that, you know, politicians in Grenada who are interested in becoming true politicians would learn from him and listen to him because he has so much to offer. It's a pleasure listening to him.
Of course. Thank you so very much for your call.
Thank you.
All right. 440-7377. That's the number for you to call and get on the inside. I did hear a beep on the line. I think someone is trying to get through. You can call back right now. 440. Yes, I've cleared the box. 440-7377. That is the number for you to call and get on to the inside of tonight's program. Yeah, you asked for it. We are listening. Remember what Dr. Mitchell spoke about just now? Humility. Yeah, I have to understand that it's our program and not my program. Yeah? All right. We have a caller online. Good night.
Yes, bud.
Yes, sir.
My brother could speak, boy.
The bull.
Yes, that is bull here.
Yes, sir.
I will, the deacon must take a page from this man. Because the problem is, deacon can speak like this man. Kit is a real boss in politics. He know what he about and he could speak. He could speak. That's why I like him for. I sit down here and I listen everything.
All right.
Yeah, man.
No problem. All right, my brother. All right. 440-7377. That's the number for you to call and get on to the inside. Yeah, we're giving you the opportunity. I think we have one coming in via the WhatsApp. So let's just get that call locked in. All right. And you can call 440-7377. You can call that number directly and you can call that number via WhatsApp. Hello, good night. Hello?
Good night, Sheldon, and how you do?
I am quite fine. How are you doing?
Sheldon, I'm elated. Sheldon, I'm so happy. A word of encouragement was given to Dr. Mitchell this morning. You go out there and deliver. Do what you have to do. I know you will deliver as you are accustomed. And so he did. Wow! God is good. God is good, Sheldon. Prayers have been heard. Doc, a lot of prayers have been said for you. Doc, continue to deliver. And I know you will deliver Grenada. Sheldon, I'm so happy. One thing, I know I am not among those that will be having nightmare tonight. Good night, Sheldon.
All right, my dear. And let's just bring another caller on. Hello, good night.
Sheldon, good night, my talking point family.
Yes, good night to you.
I sit down and I listen with boss. That is why they call it six-star general. They can't stop him.
Of
Presentation. Oh, God, I can't explain. That's the boss. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. And folks, you know, listening Dr. Mitchell speak about his challenges as a leader after Hurricane Ivan, I think that is something that anyone that wants to get involved in politics should listen to. I, for one, yes, I was wrong. I remember some of what he was going through at that point in time. Because you saw what happened to the Prime Minister's residence. He couldn't even stay in the Prime Minister's residence. He had to go to his private residence and so on. You heard the story of him seeing the 40 to 50 people walking down the road heading up the West Coast for them to say, boss, when you're ready for us, send for us. That was the prisoners and them that leave Richmond Hill and go home. Yeah? And all those challenges, because when any of us that can remember it, when we got up after Hurricane Ivan, it was a feeling of hopelessness. For those of you that old enough to remember and those that were here, we have a call online. Good night.
Sheldon, good night.
Good night, my dear.
We can't expect better. We couldn't have expected better, Sheldon. What? I knock my leg and the tears in me, you know. I knock my leg and the tears in me. We can't expect better, Sheldon. Oh my God, thank you, Jesus, my Prime Minister. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Have a blessed night.
All right. And you know what? I hope those who are here and young in the politics now, those who may intend to go into the politics in the future, and some of those who in the politics now but think they know everything, I hope that they listen to him. In particular, not just speaking on politics, but speaking about leadership and effective leadership and the challenges that you face as a leader, especially a leader of a small island state like Grenada. Yeah? So I hope that those who are in office now and those who would like to be in office, yeah, young politicians, middle-aged politicians, even older people who want to get involved in politics, that they listen to what he had to say. And not just politicians, but leaders in general in different spheres, that they all listen to what it is that he had to say in relation to that. We have a call on the line. Good night.
Hi, good night, Sheldon.
Hi, good night. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, man. For the last 10 days, my nose was down, but tonight, my nose is up tonight, man. Doc raised our nose again, man. Proud of him.
Of
Great
course.
job tonight.
Well, it's not like when certain people go outside and talk and you hear a whole island attacking them.
Well, of course. Yeah, so I just want to thank Doc again. He
All
made
right.
us proud.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, caller. All right. And let me see. Yes, let's go to the phone line again. Hello, good night.
Sheldon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Well, if I didn't open that phone line, I'd be dead tonight.
Sheldon, man, I listen to the boss, man. I listen to the boss. The boss speak real nice, man. The boss of the whole of Grenada smiling here. Sheldon. Anyhow, I don't have nothing much to say. Let we just stay strong and keep firm.
Of course.
Have a good night, my brethren.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, man.
All right. Let me pull this caller in on the WhatsApp. Did I answer? Yeah, I answered right. So let me get this caller in on the WhatsApp. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night. Yes, caller, you're live.
It couldn't have been better.
Of course.
Couldn't have been better. I tell you, you had a George Bush and all these people and them. You have to listen to this mister from Grenada. You have to listen to that prime minister from Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? The whole Caribbean leaders. That page is an answer for them to see. It's a word for the wise. You understand? I want this prime minister in Grenada to take lecture from him, to listen to him and don't be enemy with him. Take training from him and don't be enemy with him. This man is good. This man is great. Nobody have nothing bad to say about this man. Everything is good words. That man well put down this today.
Mm-hmm.
Sheldon?
All right. Thank you for
You
your
want
call.
any better than that?
Not at all. Thank you so very much for your call, caller.
Thank you very much.
All right. And we have a caller on the line. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night, Sheldon.
Good night.
I'm talking point from you. That was my best night for the weekend.
Well, I'm now realizing that I die for the leader's phone line close.
But Grenada comes out from the Hall of Shame to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and that's the contrast, eh?
You come straight to the Hall of Fame tonight.
And my dear, that's the contrast, eh? just last week, you had the present Prime Minister creating such that a storm, as one journalist put it, over there in St. Lucia, and everybody cussing and carrying on about Grenada's Prime Minister. Then you have Dr. Mitchell going there right now and being lauded by the academics, by the students, by the Barbadian public, the Caribbean public. Really, because I was looking at some of the comments via the UE page, and man, positive. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead, yeah.
Yeah. This doctor, the doc remained the 5-star general, is 6, up to the 6-star general. He continues to be the 6-star general. Nobody stops him. That is what you call a political genius.
Of
There
course.
is not the best in the world, not in the Western Hemisphere, the Eastern, the best in the world. We have a representative. He really makes us proud. Very, very, very proud. Grenada proud. Everybody. And who ain't proud? Well, I don't know how to describe them. Grenadians supposed to be very proud tonight. Good night.
Mm-hmm. All right. and let's hit the phone line again. Hello, good night. Hello.
Good night.
Hi, good night. Yes, sir. You're
Yes,
live.
sir. Yes, sir. That is a word of encouragement. Well done. Yeah, I mean, that is the boss.
Yes, yes.
And those guys should take a page out of that and learn. Yeah. Hello?
Indeed. Yes, yes, I'm listening you.
Yes, yes.
I'm here.
Yes, Scott. Yes, that is word of encouragement, and those guys should take a page out of that. Yeah. And trust me, the man speak. That is the boss. And yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. 4407377. Maybe if I get a babysitter tomorrow, I never tell it might have a talking points tomorrow. 4407377. That's the number for you to call. Let me make sure the box clear and get on to the inside. Yes. Dr. Mitchell spoke of his challenges going through Hurricanes Ivan and Emily. I think that going through Ivan and Emily and being the leader of Grenada during that period of time kind of prepared him for the role he had to play during the COVID crisis. Yeah? Because he had exemplary leadership during the COVID pandemic. Grenada had the best record until certain people decided they wanted to do nonsense. We had the best record. We have a call online. Good night. Hello, good night. Your caller, you're live. You may not be listening to the phone line, but I know you're anything in the background, so hello. Hello?
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night. Yes, you're a live caller. Speak up. You go right ahead.
This is first time I'm calling.
Okay, no problem. Don't make it your last time, eh?
No. Well, Sheldon,
Yes, ma'am.
that's the boss. This is the boss.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you. You go ahead. Yeah.
Good night, Sheldon.
Yes.
That's the boss. The candle they lighting there for my prime minister. Joke they're making. No. That's the candle they lighting there, Sheldon. He can walk. My prime minister is blessed, and no one can take him away from that.
Of course. All right, my dear, we thank you so very much for your call. Make sure you call us again. All right? We love to hear your voice. All right, my dear. 4407377. Yes, my people. 4407377. That's the number for you to call and get onto the inside of tonight's program. Yeah, and I will be going a little past 10 o'clock. I ain't stopping at 10. I'm going a little past 10 o'clock. You understand? Yeah, you get talking points started at 7 today and come right through. Yeah, you get thing, man. We have a call online. Good night. Hello? Hi, good night. Oops. Hello? Okay, that person dropped off. Yeah, maybe they have a problem with their phone line, but they did get through. So let's try again. I don't know if it's going to be the same person. We have a call online. Good night.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night. Your live caller, go right ahead. You're live on air.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night.
Bless our Prime Minister, Dr. Kit Mitchell, and God will always bless him. And he's a blessed man, and for him, and he will always be blessed.
Of course. I thank you so very much, my friend. Okay, thank you. And I think we have another caller online. Good night. Hello. You're a live caller. That is just a delayed one you're hearing in the background there, but you're live. Go right ahead.
Hey, Sheldon.
Hey, yes, sir. Go right ahead.
How are you, sir?
I'm quite fine.
Yeah, Sheldon, if you want a sheep to eat, you buy any sheep. But if you want one to mine, you look for pedigree. Have a good night.
Well, say that again because some noise came through on my
Yeah.
end and blocked out what you were saying.
Yes, Sheldon.
Mhm.
If you're looking for a sheep to eat,
Mhm.
if you're looking for a sheep to eat, you buy any sheep. But if you're looking for a sheep to mine, you look for pedigree. I'm proud of Dr. Mitchell. Have a good night.
I didn't hear what that caller said, and I'm glad I asked them to repeat it. Pedigree. We've got a caller on the WhatsApp. Hello, good night. Caller on the WhatsApp.
Hello, sir.
Good night.
Hello, sir. I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be able to hear my blessed brother. Lord, I'm so happy I cannot say much. Have a blessed night, sir.
Okay, thank you so very much yourself. And we have a caller online. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good night.
First time caller.
Thank you. And don't let it
And
be
I
last.
want to congratulate Dr. Mitchell. You know what touched me? He never forget where he come from. He always remember he come from poor family and he let the world know. And God will bless him for that.
Of course, of course, of course. I thank you so very much, my dear, and do not be a stranger to the phone lines. Continue to call. All right? Yes, hello?
Yes, okay,
Yes.
bye-bye. Have a blessed night.
Okay, same to you. And we have a caller coming in via the WhatsApp. Yeah, we have a caller coming in via the WhatsApp. Hello, good night.
Sharon, good night.
Good night,
This is
my dear.
first time calling. I always listen, but this is my first time calling. Me and my daughter always listen. We're calling all the way from Buffalo.
Welcome.
I just want to say, oh gosh, Dr. Kit Mitchell is a boss. He's a boss. That's my prime minister. We originally from Carrico, but we're living in Buffalo right now. So, oh my God. He make me call you tonight.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to make sure I bring him on before the year done, so you'll get a chance to talk to him directly.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So take care. And I know my friend up all the way from who is in Brooklyn right now will be locked in, and she would kill me. She would call me as I put on the phone. But anyway, all the best to the Grenadian public. Happy Thanksgiving and take care of yourself. We are in the cold.
Oh, dear. I know it is. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you in North America. All right,
Yeah,
my dear.
thank you.
All right.
Have a pleasant night.
Same to you as well. Lord, my friend in the South. Yeah, you see where you call there? You call and you start the thing. He called about 8 times, and I just watched it. I said, I don't take in call. I don't take mistake I make. We listen to the voice of the people. What they say, vox populi? Yeah, listen to the voice of the people. So that is what I'm doing. I listen to the voice of the people and you see what happened. 440-7377. That's 440-7377. That is the number for you to call and get onto the inside. You can call via WhatsApp. You can call directly. Or you can also call us on 347-329-3101. And we know many of you out in North America are enjoying your Thanksgiving dinner or and in the throes of what we call the itis after having your Thanksgiving dinner. Yeah? Nobody instead of sending that 2 turkey are passing down Granada said I see 3 turkey in the road. I say them turkey and them brave. But they realized they in Grenada on Thanksgiving so they could take the chance. So it had 3 turkeys in the road in my area today. They know they could take the chance. They're down in Grenada. 440-7377 and 347-329-3101. We say a special good night to each and every one of you. Yeah. All of the new callers, don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger to the phone lines. Utilize them. We know many, many people listen. I meet them on the street. Sometimes they're visiting. They say, listen, I listen in you, I doesn't call, but I listen in. Yeah? But Dr. Mitchell, bring out everybody tonight. We've got a call on the WhatsApp. Good night.
Yes, good evening, my brother. How are you?
I am quite fine, Pastor. How are you tonight?
Right. Yeah, good, man. I was in class when Doc started.
Yes.
And I had to stand up with my hand under my chin, listening to this brother, and I said, This is a constitutional, institutional, professional lecturer. You know, he is the world's best. You know, and I'm so thankful for Dr. Mitchell and his simplicity. I mean, that discussion tonight, that message that he brought tonight, the entire world, especially right here at home, needed to hear that. You know, and this gentleman did not go there to waste any time to call anybody's name or malign anybody. Heart to heart, Dr. Mitchell, thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
And thank you so
Always,
much.
you'll be rewarded. Yes.
All right, Pastor.
You take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a good night.
All right.
Don't
Wonderful.
forget to run the thing tomorrow or sometime. We having
Yes.
program tomorrow?
I thinking, I considering because there's some stuff I had to
let's do
talk
it.
about. That involves babysitter and transport and thing. Unless they're providing the transport and babysitter here, maybe.
Well, we're going to talk about transport. Don't worry.
All right, Pastor. Enjoy your night.
All right, good night.
Yes,
Good
indeed.
night, my brother. Yeah.
All right, yes, and 4407377. That's the number for you to call and get onto the inside. Yeah, I was in class tonight. Yeah, we have a call online. Good night.
Sheldon,
Yes, sir.
good night.
How art thou?
Congratulate my man, and well done.
Yes, man.
You can expect better from no one.
Yeah, you sure
But,
to do it.
one of the things that I really enjoy is the answers to the questions that was posed to him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't hesitate, and he explained everything to people. So what I'm looking for now is that the Prime Minister and guts and belly to learn from him and try to be better for Grenada in the future.
Of course.
Take care and have a good night.
All right, thank you so very much.
Good boy, take care.
And I'm seeing a request from some individuals that we play that presentation over. So we will set it up, and over the weekend we will rebroadcast it via Talking Points. We will rebroadcast the entire session over the weekend. All right, via Talking Points. We'll make sure that we do that. And we have another call online. Good night.
Hello, good night, Shalon.
Hi, good night, my dear.
Yeah. I feel so proud of my Prime Minister with God blessing, and God put him there. And he said everything what he had to say with no mistake, everything. He speaks so true. And I love to hear him speak, and he must keep it up, and God going to keep him strong with long life, health, and strength to keep up that country when you hear he come back there. He have to come back there, and we have to bring him back there. So we want the people to go out and look on the voters list and see if their name there for them to vote to put back the Prime Minister there. They can have to go. He have to go. Good night.
All right, my dear.
Okay.
And don't be a stranger to the phone line.
No, I'm not a stranger.
All right, my dear. 4407377. I tell all the others, listen when all you talk, when all you say do something, others do it. All right. It's our program. Yeah, don't tell me it's your program as in my program. It's our program. Nice. And we have another caller coming in. Let's take one on the WhatsApp. Yeah, let's see if we can get one in. Lock in this one on the WhatsApp. And we have a caller. Hello, good night.
Good night, Mr. Scott. How you going?
I'm good, man. You go right ahead.
Yeah, well, probably if you didn't open the line tonight, something might happen to you.
Man, what the guy boss said.
Listen, we have some things to talk about, but things don't really tonight short. But
Yeah,
what I want
I might
to
try
suggest
tomorrow night to do a program.
is that I believe that Dr. Mitchell should do a documentary. Somebody should do a documentary. That presentation tonight was it was really good, and it need a documentary. So, like when you were speaking about his leadership role during the COVID and Ivan, and how he had to the skills he had to put out in order to help Grenada come back. That should be showing together with the lecture and the presentations. So I feel he should employ somebody to do a documentary, feature in most of that speech here tonight. Thank you.
All right, brother. And what I would say is this, that he is doing his memoirs. He did mention during his presentation when he was being questioned, he did mention that he is doing his memoirs. In other words, he's doing a book in relation to the period Hurricane Ivan. It's from way back when, come right down the road. So he is doing a book. He has one book out, that's Words in Service. That book deals with the various speeches he's delivered over the years. And now he's doing another book that he's going to be giving historical perspective on many aspects of Grenadian politics and history and his involvement over the years. We've got a caller online.
Good night, Mr. Scott.
Kiaraku.
And amen. And how are you?
I'm good.
I would like to congratulate my Dr. Keith Mitchell tonight. He performed with distinction tonight. He's excellent. He do us proud. What a wonderful Prime Minister. I hope he continue to fight a mighty fight and do us proud. Have a good night. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you so very much. And I think we have a call on the WhatsApp. Let me try to lock in the caller on the WhatsApp. And I think I have them in. Hello, good night.
Sheldon.
Yes, ma'am.
Honestly speaking, that would have been the biggest mistake you'd have made by not opening up that lines tonight.
Well, I listen.
Sheldon, though, you just had to give it to the people tonight. You had to give it to the people tonight.
Let me tell you something,
And
back in 2013, after winning the general election 15-0, Dr. Mitchell made a speech that night that showed humility and leadership.
Exactly.
When he appointed his cabinet, he appointed some of us to the Senate, he appointed various people to various ministries. If you go back and listen to the speech on that day, he spoke of humility. Yeah? So in other words, it's not always what I want and only what I want. But I have to listen to what the people who make this program, what it is, want. So if they say they want the phone lines open, who am I to deny? I have to do as the people say.
Exactly, Sheldon. And you know, Doc always speak of the people. Doc always say it is not for me, it is not for himself, but it is for the people of Grenada. He said it is, tell them it is for you, for your children and your children's children. Sheldon, I am happy tonight.
Of course.
Sheldon, I am happy tonight, Sheldon. The boss himself, he will deliver tonight. He will deliver.
Yes,
that
he
is
did.
what you call a boss. His legacy is what none of them could touch. I'm happy.
All right,
Sheldon,
my dear.
I'm happy. As according to my grandmother, when I go and lie down, grass don't grow it.
Your cup full, run it over, yeah? All right, my dear. Watch that. Miguel, bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
44073. As I said, I will be staying a little after 10. So, yeah, I can take some more calls and so on. I will not get into the issues, and there are a couple that I was going to get into tonight. I will leave them alone, probably for Monday, but possibly for tomorrow. So probably for Monday, but possibly for tomorrow. Yeah? And again, I listen to you all. It's just that I have to ensure that I have the babysitter in place, because you know I have my little son with me. I'll have to make sure that I have babysitter in place, and transportation, because the transportation I usually use to get in and out will not be available on a Friday. So somebody got to pick me up and somebody got to drop me back and that kind of thing, you know. So yeah, we have to organize that between myself. Yeah, pick up and a drop off, right? But in the interim, 4407377, you can call. Yes, you can call and get into the program right now. So again, what Dr. Mitchell was speaking about in relation to leadership is not just in the political sphere. You can apply those same principles, those same principles in other spheres. You could apply it as a leader in sports, the captain of a team, the coach of a team. Yeah, even a member of a team with certain responsibilities. You can apply that as well to business. Yeah, as the boss, you have workers working along with you. It could be on a construction site and you're the foreman. But there are certain aspects of the principles which he spoke about today that you can apply in that context. Yeah, leadership in situations where you wonder, boy, what I put myself in this thing for? Because I know how I felt when I woke up the morning after Ivan. I know how I felt when I look around and you realize nearly every tree that you know around you down, roof gone here, roof gone there. The house that you was in is a couple feet down the hillside, and the other houses around it exploded and they're all over the place and so on. So I know how I felt. And that was a localized thing just in that area. How would somebody feel being the prime minister of the country at that point in time? Is like, where's me? What I put myself into? I had to be responsible to help bring this country back from where we were now to this point. I could imagine how Dr. Mitchell felt. Yeah? And I said I was wrong at the point in time. And I know various aspects of what he went through at that point in time. In other words, even to get, they were saying, oh, he leave and he went on battleship. In order to be able to maintain communication with the outside world, he had to use, he had to use different means to be able to contact the outside world to start the process of getting assistance for Grenada. I remember Colin Powell. Yeah, Colin Powell, the U.S. General, was Secretary of State and so on. Colin Powell came down to Grenada, to meet with Dr. Mitchell after Hurricane Ivan. So there was a lot that he has done. And yes, Sonny Isle is speaking about managerial skills. Yes, how you manage in times of duress. How did he manage during COVID? Your economy took a serious hit. You had a situation where everywhere was locking down, yet still you had to manage. Public workers got paid on time. You were able to secure what you had to secure to safeguard people during that period of time. How did you manage? I'm surprised that question didn't come directly. It came indirectly, but directly in relation to how did he manage during those times. Yeah, that would have been interesting to hear his outcome in relation to that, right? Yeah, and I know a lot of you are sleeping good tonight because after having our prime minister saying thing in St. Lucian, I have a lot of St. Lucian friends. When I tell you I have a lot of St. Lucian friends, by the hundreds, I have nearly St. Lucian myself. One of the only islands I don't have relatives, but I have a load of friends out of St. Lucia. And I'm telling you, they have been upset. And in fact, with the statements made at the press conference day before, they're still upset. But then when they hear things like how Dr. Mitchell is speaking, especially the younger ones who want to be involved in politics or are involved in politics and are thinking of making a career out of it, running for representational politics or working along with political parties, when they hear that sort of presentation like Dr. Mitchell made today, is very informative to them. It helps them avoid some of the pitfalls. Dr. Mitchell spoke a lot this evening. He spoke about the fight that he had, both himself and Gregory Bowen, with Grentel, when he had to break the monopoly that they had on telecommunications in Grenada. Remember, it was one communications company. It was just Cable and Wireless / Grentel / Grenada Phone Company, whatever you want to call them according to age. Yeah? But it was one. And they broke that monopoly so that now you could have the Spice Mobile operating. Now you can have the Digicel operating. Yeah? At a time we even had AT&T was operating in Grenada. They used to be in Granans. They were operating. I think their thing was absorbed by Digicel after a few years, a year or so. They were absorbed by Digicel because they didn't get enough of the market. But all of that became possible because of the work that was done by the same individual. The same individual by the name of Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell and Gregory Bowen. I can't leave out Mr. Gregory Bowen in all of this. Because what they did in Grenada, when it came to breaking the back of the monopoly of cable and wireless in Grenada, broke the back of cable and wireless in the region. So Jamaica, after Grenada, Jamaica didn't open out and then Grenada get it blind, Grenada was the first one in the Caribbean to break it. People were complaining, as Dr. Mitchell said in his presentation. I listened very carefully, because the unions were saying, well, people go lose jobs if there's a monopoly. And so, no, instead of losing jobs, what did it do? It created more jobs because you had more companies, so people had an option. And if you were working for 2,000 here and you were a good worker, the other company would pay you 3. So it created opportunities for people to earn more money, not to lose their jobs. So when ECTEL, the regional telecommunication body, was giving out awards, they called up Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell and Gregory Bowen. I remember it because we were in opposition at the time, as we are now. We were in opposition at that point in time. That was during the period 2008 to 2013. They called both of them up and awarded them for being the 2 people that led the charge to break the monopoly that cable and wireless had on the region. Trinidad benefited. Guyana benefited. Yeah? St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Dominica, St. Kitts, Montserrat, the Bahamas, all the countries in the Caribbean. Digicel and all the other companies were able to come in. Yeah? And then because you had the movement of technology and so on, we were able to get that. That was done because of the work that Dr. Mitchell had. He mentioned it in passing tonight. Yeah? All of the challenges that he has faced. He spoke about West Indies cricket and lamented the state of West Indies cricket at this point in time. But also, he spoke about the fact that he was leading that specific organization to help develop West Indies cricket. But when they started getting a little fight back from the West Indies Cricket Board, saying that they found that they were having political influence, he decided to pull back. Now, if he was the type of leader that just decided, well, I'm in charge and I'm a prime minister, they can't tell me pull back, he would have just go ahead with it. But instead of that, he said, well, okay, this is their view, and we have to take not only my view into consideration, we must take the view of the West Indies Cricket Board of Control. So he pulled back. He pulled back, and we see the state of West Indies cricket now. But at least they can't say that he forced his opinion on them, that he forced his perception on them. Yeah? And I think we have a caller online. Hello, good night.
Yeah, Sheldon, good night, bro. How are you?
Hey, I'm quite fine. How are you tonight, bro?
Thanks be to God, brother. Good.
All the time.
Yes, I just want to comment on Dr. Mitchell's presentation tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very pleased. I'm very elated. And I just want to say what I saw on display tonight was maturity. I saw statesmanship. I saw a man given respect and recognition. I saw a man who people think they have written off very much standing. And what impressed me too is his phenomenal memory. You know, I didn't see a man be given a presentation that was artificially generated, intelligence generated.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a man who spoke from the heart and from the head and gave an able account of himself. And I really want to say how proud I felt as a Grenadian listening and looking at Dr. Mitchell tonight and seeing how well received he was by the audience and the accolades that was heaped on him. And I think it's a lesson for those wannabe people here who think, well, you know, they're just a Johnny come lately and they've arrived and they're the end all and be all of everything in this country. So congrats to Dr. Mitchell. I want to commend you too, Sheldon, for bringing this program to us tonight. So thank you very, very much, and God bless you. God bless Dr. Mitchell and all of Grenada. Thank you, bro.
Of course, thank you. Yes, indeed, folks. And the phone lines are still open, 440-7377. You can call on WhatsApp. You can call directly. Yes, I'm going to give you all about another 15 to 20 minutes again. Yeah, I know somebody. Let me make sure they didn't call yet. Yeah, 15 to 20 minutes I'm going to give you all again. But I'll say this. Yeah, and somebody was saying knowing when to back off gracefully. Yes. Look, Dr. Mitchell said something there, and I don't know if much people picked it up when he was speaking about the constitutional reform process. And they asked him the question about term limits and so. And he said, listen, we gave the option to impose term limits. The same people who for years before that were saying term limits, term limits, term limits. Dr. Mitchell offered all of us the opportunity to vote for term limits. I can tell you straight, I voted against it. And I have my reasons I voted against it. But he offered it. And had it passed, it would have meant that he was at that time on his last term as Prime Minister. That's not the reason I voted against it. I believe in small states like these, where you have a limited number of people, the amount of people that we have on island here in Grenada is part of a village in China. Yeah? It's about 4 blocks in Calcutta. That's the amount of people that we have here. We have to admit, we have a low population. We need to increase our population size. And therefore, you can't tell me that you're going to legislate that we have to take the 3rd or 4th or 5th best person when we have the best person for our job. I believe you always want the best person for a job. That's why I'm against term limits. I believe you always want to have the best person for the job. And I should always want to have the best tool available in my toolbox. I don't want to have to use the 2nd best tool or the 3rd best tool. I want the best tool in my toolbox to ensure that the job that is being done is done properly. That's why I personally am against term limits. But Dr. Mitchell didn't say whether he was for or against. Even if he was for or against, it was offered. He was the Prime Minister at the time it was offered, you know. He could have said, don't put that inside there. It was offered. It was refused. Yeah? So all of that says a lot about him as an individual. There are some of them that try to give the impression that he's this sort of dictatorial person that says, I could give stories, but I'm not allowed to, of various times that I personally did not agree with things. And Dr. Mitchell, even though he did not have to, took the time to speak to me and explain why A is A and why B is B. Why it is written in cursive. Yeah, when he did not have to do it. This impression that, why you dictator, kind of nonsense and so on. No. Yeah? He will hold strong views, and he like it when you hold strong views too. It says a lot about him as a leader. Yeah? It says a lot about him as a leader. Folks, I am kind of leaning towards doing a talking points tomorrow. Once I am, it will be talking points tomorrow night at the normal time, 8 to 10, tomorrow night. I will confirm with transportation tonight, and I'll try to organize with a babysitter. But let's say, tentatively, that we will be having talking points tomorrow night from 8 p.m. All right, so tentatively, we are having talking points tomorrow night from 8 p.m. Spread the word. All right, talking points, because you know people usually don't look for it on a Friday night. So talking points tentatively tomorrow night from 8 p.m. All right, so we agree. As again, I just listen to all you. All right, and we have some things that we have to deal with before the weekend. Yeah, best we deal with it before the weekend. I think I might call my good friend Oliver Joseph to discuss something too. Yeah, I think I will call my good friend Ollie. I want to discuss some things tomorrow night too. So I feel I could talk with him tomorrow. And we have 1 or 2 other things that we're going to want to talk about tomorrow night as well. Folks, I think we're going to take a wrap about now. Yeah, I think we're going to take a wrap about now. Yeah, I think it's time that I mosey on out. All right? Folks, in whatever you say, and in whatever you do, and I hope you all understand when I say this. I've been saying this for years. Since probably about 2010, I usually say this at the end of the program. And the reason is, I want you all to understand in whatever you say and whatever you do to try and always ensure that you are safe. Because I always want to be able to take your hand and shake it, give you a hug, yeah, kiss you on your forehead. Always want to be able to interact with you as a live, living, breathing individual, rather than having to come here and speak about you in the past tense. So in whatever you say, whatever you do, Do it safe and secure. We want to be speaking to and with you, and definitely not about you. Folks, that's all the talking points for tonight. And as we said, talking points tomorrow night, Friday night, talking points. Just because you all does ask for it, you ain't gonna get it every week, Not yet. We ain't sort out certain things, so I can't do it every week. But tomorrow we're gonna do a special talking points program tomorrow night just for you. Right? So that's all the time we have for tonight. I am out of here. I think we're going out with some steel pan tonight. Yeah, we're going out with some steel pan tonight, man. Let me try a thing there, yeah.